Okay, so our next question was examples of how we've used voice and choice in the classroom. One of the biggest projects that a colleague, Annie Olson and myself this year, we tried was a civics project. So we went pure voice and choice. We said we're going to let students decide on a problem in the community that they would like to solve, and they are going to create a solution on their own. And they're going to write surveys that they're going to distribute on their own. Questions that they choose. So it was a pretty daunting task, and we just jumped in. The first thing we did is we took the 95-page document, the Mesa County Health Report infographics, and we read it. We looked at it as a class, we reflected, and we said, what are some issues you see in our valley, and where do your passions lie? What are some things you'd really like to see fixed? And I was very impressed with how community-minded many of the students were. And that was it was a pretty successful project. The product itself was not what we had wanted, though. You know, students' passions came out, they were choosing, they were more invested, but we did not include in our timeline probably enough practice opportunities, or the students did not participate in as many practice opportunities as they needed to have a final successful product. So although this voice and choice had caused lots of student motivation, lots of involvement, we had students that were not previously attending school for days or weeks at a time that all of a sudden were showing up every day to discuss and research. We had a student who emailed Scott Tipton and asked him about health courses in Mesa County and why we don't have them, and he was very, very passionate. So we had students that were reaching out in real world ways, and that was a huge success because of who we have, and I love that they were getting involved. But on the other side of voice and choice is we are looking for an academic product. And many of our presentations the students had to give, they fell between the 2 and 1.5 range. I would say over half of our presentations were pretty disappointing. The students that were academically sound and the students that put in the time and monitored their learning plan very closely did a very nice job. And their presentations were grade level or just below with some things they needed to improve upon. But that's one thing that we found with the voice and choice is we had 3 weeks. It was a third of our quarter that we had dedicated to this voice and choice, and I felt like I was missing out, or I didn't do something for them the right way, because their product that we always focus on, what are they going to turn in, what are they going to deliver, what are they going to show, what could they show their families, it was not quite there yet. Mm-hmm. But when Annie and I reflected upon that project, we realized there were students that are now community-minded. They realized there are problems, they realized there are issues. We had a student make a pamphlet about how to be safe in your area and wanted to distribute it in local high schools. And so we started some sparks. And I think in 8th grade, sparks are sometimes the little victories you can celebrate, but we still need to find that balance between the choice is motivating, great, now what's your learning plan and how are you going to stick to it? So we had checkpoints, but we had many students that fell behind those checkpoints. And when their learning plan was going more slowly than they anticipated, many of them lost motivation at that point. They were not motivated by the next checkpoint. We had several students that just said, why try, I'm giving up, or I'm so far behind. So it was interesting to see, because we said, you have these points and you can continue. But students, overall, I feel like it was a valuable experience, and they talk about it. The parents were encouraged to come in and view, so they were really involved in something that they had chosen, and that was the most powerful piece, I believe. I've also been really focusing on, I was trying to look and see what else I had put down here for you guys, but we did a big poetry unit. Leslie and I decided we were going to, for their summative, do a large poetry book. So they were going to, after analysis and after annotation and after all of these pieces, they were going to craft, we called it a poem a day. So they needed to submit 10 poems that they had drafted themselves and workshopped and published and had organized in a book. And so we taught many lessons along the way. We had a calendar, we had checkpoints they needed to fulfill, but I still feel like the project itself, if students had bought into the voice, they bought into the choice, they rolled with it. And we had some amazing, amazing pieces and feedback and workshopping going on between peers. We even mixed our groups together. So some students that were ready from Leslie's class and my class got together. So it was no longer one classroom and another classroom, and that's where you stay. It's, are you ready? You move on to people that are ready. If you need help, we're going to do a mini lesson with those who still need help. So that was a big success. We had students that loved the workshopping piece, but many students, again, fell short with their work pace. So that's something we're still trying to reconcile, is how do we give them choice and how do we give them their voice when their work habits or their soft skills as students still need work. Those are the two big ones. There's lots of minor things that we could spend tons of time talking about, but we'll probably share that a little later.